Let's talk about the Great Reset. Can you really change everything in your life, break free from your previous limitations, and start something completely new? An entirely new life? I believe you can. We're going to talk about how to do it in this episode.
The Ray Edwards Show. Live your destiny by design. Start, run, and grow your own internet-based business and create the life of your dreams. You can do it. This is The Ray Edwards Show.
Let's change the world and watch your business grow. Welcome to The Ray Edwards Show. Ray Edwards Show.
Welcome indeed to the Ray Edwards Show. This is episode 561 of the Ray Edwards podcast. And that's both in the Apple Podcast app and other podcatchers, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and also on our YouTube channel. So we're talking about changing everything, breaking free from previous limitations, whether real or imagined, and just getting on with life. Can you do it? You definitely can. And I believe you're part of this thing called the creator economy, or you wouldn't be here. That's what they're calling it now. The mainstream media is referring to us, those of us who are on the internet, creating content, and that means business content. That means life improvement content. It also means just entertainment. For instance, you may or may not be familiar with Brandon Sanderson. He is the guy that Robert Jordan chose to finish writing the epic fantasy novel series, The Wheel of Time, when Jordan began to suspect he might not survive long enough to finish the series. So Brandon Sanderson finished that series, did a remarkable job pulling it all together, something many people wondered if even Jordan would be able to do. Brandon did a great job. That became the Amazon limited run series that has been so successful for Amazon Prime. And of course, Brandon has written so many books. He's got a huge following. He's got an epic fantasy series of his own in the works. And he, over the last 2 years during COVID, he says he got anxious. He had anxiety caused by being stuck inside during the pandemic, like all of us were. So he wrote 4 novels. That's how he dealt with his anxiety. He wrote 4 novels during that 2-year period. And he decided to publish them himself instead of going through a major publisher, put up a Kickstarter campaign, and at this moment is just shy of $28 million on this Kickstarter campaign, with plenty of time left to go. Good chance he'll clear $30 million with a Kickstarter made up of 4 fantasy novels, stories he made up out of his mind. So is it possible? You better believe it is possible to change everything, to break free, and to live the life you were put here to live, the one you dream of living. Maybe you, like so many of us, realized over the last couple of years during the pandemic that things just weren't as you wanted them in your life. You had been settling for a lot of passivity. You decided that what the cards you'd been dealt in life were good enough. And now you've been through something, we all have, that makes you say, I want more. And it's not just about, I think for most of us, it's not just about the fact that you want more. You feel as though you were made for more. So many people that I know are talking to me about how they're going in a new direction because they feel as though they had not been living up to their potential, and now they want to do something that is more expressive of the capabilities their creator put within them. They're filled with purpose. And that doesn't mean you have to be religious. Many of my friends are not religious at all, yet they feel this fire inside, this desire to live a life on purpose. And they've gone after it. And there are so many great examples of people who are living out a fuller, richer life that is actually very different. It might look the same to many people from the outside, but when you start looking at things like where are they living now? What kind of work are they doing? How are they spending their free time? Things are very different. I think of my friend Mike Kim. He wrote a best-selling book and published it over the last couple of years called You Are the Brand. It's a great book. You should get it and read it. And he's doing a live event this coming month. It's going to be huge in Denver. And he's made some epic changes in his life. He's living in a new city. He's got a new apartment. He's got a new circle of friends. He's involved in some Korean martial arts, some cooking. He was already an extraordinarily great human being. And I'm excited to see who he's becoming now. And this is something that I've seen happen with many of my friends. Joel Comm is another inspiration. He's somebody who, he began talking to me about a dream he had of living in Puerto Rico and living a lifestyle that was very different from the cold winters we experienced here in the great Northwest. He wanted to be somewhere where it was beaches and sunshine, and he did it. He moved. He completely moved from one city to another, switched focus of his business. He's now a co-host of one of the most successful podcasts in the crypto space. Joel is speaking this year at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. That'll be happening this week as this episode is published. Don't miss his session. You must see his session. He's got some amazing things to share with you. Mike Stelzner, the guy who is hosting, who created Social Media Marketing World, who is the founder and head of Social Media Examiner, and the founder now of the Crypto Business Podcast. Mike has made so many adjustments in his business. He's created new divisions. He's created new revenue streams. He's made big changes. Again, he just realized, I have a desire to do more, to have more impact. And he went and did it and is doing it. And I believe we can all do the same. And I think there are 3 gates we all must pass through if we want to make these kinds of changes. Because these are the obstacles that have stood before us in the past that caused us to turn around and go back into the pasture and hang out with the other sheep. Nothing wrong with that unless you want more. And then to get out of those pastures, you got to pass through some gates. I think there are 3 of them. They're metaphorical gates, of course. But I think you'll agree once we walk through this process together, this is a model that works. So what are the 3 gates to pass through to change everything, to break free of your limitations, and really live? Number 1, you have to pass through the gate of dreams. This is where you have to have a vision of what you want your future to look like. And I don't mean just a vague vision, just like someday I want to retire, I want to live on the beach, want to be fit, want to have some money and some friends. Those are fantasies. Without a plan to get you there, you're not going to get there. Success is not just going to jump up and attack you. However, before you make the plans, like the specific tactics and activities you're going to engage in to get you where you want to go, you've got to have a clear dream or vision. The book of Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 18, says, where there is no vision, the people perish, because the vision is what pulls them forward. The vision is what keeps you going when things get tough. The vision is what keeps you working when there's a global pandemic, when there are wars and rumors of wars, and everything seems to be going chaotic. There is something that'll carry you forward. It's your vision of the future, your hopeful expectation of good things to come, because you've set it up and given yourself reason to hope. That's why. So you must have passed through this gate of dreams where you get specific in your dreams. You picture exactly how you want your future to look, where you want to live, the kind of house you want to be in, the amount of money you want to make, what you want your work to actually look like. This would be a situation that you created in your mind first, and then you went to work on taking the actual physical steps in the world, in the real world, to get you to that place, instead of just having a vague fantasy and hoping someday it'll show up. That is magic. That is like the secret. The law of magical attraction. If I just think about it, it'll happen. Wishing will make it so. No, that's magic. Sorcery, if you will. What we're talking about is practical, amazing, phenomenal results you can achieve by having a clear vision, a clear dream, idea of where you're going. That leads to gate number 2 you need to pass through, which is the gate of decisions. Now, decisions are a funny thing. Most of us, when we talk about making a decision, are not actually talking about a decision. We're talking about a proposal, a theory that we're putting forth, an idea of something we're going to try. I know somebody very close to me who often says, I'm going to go to this city over here. I'm going to go to Orlando, Florida and live there and work at Disney because I love Disney. I know from having known this person for a long time, they don't really mean they're going to do that. I used to think they did mean it. And I realize now they don't mean, they're fantasizing. They haven't made a real decision. And the word decision gets a lot of discussion these days. My friend Cliff Ravenscraft picked up on something we both heard Tony Robbins teaching on one day, which was the fact that the word decision comes from the same root in the Latin that means to cut off from, to separate from. So when you decide something, you have cut yourself off from all other options. I looked up the etymology because I began to suspect this might be one of those urban myths that isn't really true. Turns out it is really true. That's what it means. You're cutting off all your other options. You're burning the boats, in other words, like the apocryphal story of Cortez, who landed in the New World and gave his men motivation to fight because he burned the boats. They had no choice. There was no going back home. A decision is not something you try. It is something you do. When you decide, you're not trying out this new business idea. You're not trying out being a copywriter, for instance. You're doing it, and you're doing it until success. That's something my friend John Lee Dumas teaches so well. You need to focus. Follow one course until success. That's what focus means. And it only happens like that once you've made a decision. And then once you've dreamed the dream, you've constructed the plan, you've passed through the gate of dreams, you've passed through the gate of decisions where there are no options. You're going to this new world. You're moving to Puerto Rico. You're starting a new division of your company. You're inventing a new lifestyle for yourself. You've decided, and it will happen. It is so. You're going to make it so. Now you have to pass through gate number 3. And if the first 2 don't stop you, this is the one that usually stop most people. The gate of disciplines. And I said, yes, disciplines with an S. So discipline is a word that gets a bad rap. A lot of people feel like discipline is equal to punishment. That is incorrect, technically. If you look up the word discipline, you discover that it means you do it until it becomes habit, until every day you're practicing the discipline of reading, the discipline of writing, the discipline of eating nutritional meals, of doing physical exercise to keep your body healthy. And we all want freedom, but I think we throw that word around so loosely we don't really know what it means anymore. It means you have the freedom to choose what you wish to do. And as Michael Hyatt has said so powerfully, you have the freedom to do almost anything you want, but you do not have the freedom to do everything you want. There's just not enough time. You can't do everything. I mean, how about you? I have so many interests. I am fascinated by amateur radio, ham radio, and I have my ham radio license. I'm fascinated by playing guitar. I don't play very well, but I'm fascinated by trying. I'm fascinated by astronomy, physics, engineering, flying airplanes, writing books, writing movies, filming and editing videos and documentaries. I'm fascinated by so many things, but each of those things would require a lifetime to master. So I have to make choices, decisions, in other words, about which things I'm going to pursue as an avocation, which things I may dabble in. But if we want a truly satisfying, fulfilled life, I believe we need mastery in one or two things. And that's where disciplines come into play. We have to be willing to put in the hours to do the thing until success. Until success. Discipline, in other words, means making choices that restrict your freedom temporarily so you can exercise more of it later. In the words of Jocko Willink, discipline equals freedom. Once you get that, you can make incredible progress towards, for most people, unbelievable goals. This is the gate that is the hardest to navigate. It's a cycle, this gate of disciplines. As soon as you're ready in this cycle, you can begin again, no matter how tough things have been. You've got to learn to let go of living from your past. This is why this third gate, this gate of disciplines, is the one that most people fail to pass through because they're living from their past. They only know their past experience and they believe they're stuck there. I'm a guy who's been through a lot of cycles in his life. I have been around the sun 57 times now. That means that's a fancy way of saying I'm 57 years old this September. So I've had a bit of experience. And I know that for me to make the stretches that I've been able to make, to go from being a boy from Kentucky who worked his way up in the world through the world of broadcast radio, who did not have a college degree but somehow managed to read 1,000 books so far in his lifetime, who's been dedicated to learning that whole time, who's been dedicated to trying new things, exploring his own limitations. From going from being that guy to then achieving a certain amount of success to then in what I felt like was the prime of my life, my mid-40s, to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And then to see a progression of that disease as it became worse over time, to end up having surgery, ending up during the middle of the pandemic, on top of everything else, in enormous chronic pain, having just been through a complete reconstruction of my right shoulder, in the emergency room, thinking I might die, and honestly being hopeless enough to feel like that would be a better outcome, that maybe I should just go ahead and die. And deciding in that moment when it was possible for me to have, I believe, given up and gone. All my experiences told me to go. Somehow, this still small voice inside of me said, what if you live not from your experience of the past, but from your faith for the future? What if you live for the possibility? What if you have a purpose for being here and you're not done with it yet? And I began to remember some of my heroes. Beethoven. Here's the world's greatest, possibly the world's greatest musical composer of all time. He went deaf before he wrote his greatest works. When he wrote what most consider to be his finest work, his Ninth Symphony, which included the Ode to Joy, he was completely unable to hear a single note of it. And yet it stands as one of the greatest, perhaps the greatest achievement of musical composition, performance and mastery and orchestration and conducting that's ever been done. To this day, I think of Helen Keller, who could neither see nor hear, yet learned to communicate so eloquently and function in a world without the technological advances and advantages we have now. Somehow she was able to do that. Stephen Hawking, a man who was stricken with ALS and for most of his life could move and write only by twitching a muscle in his cheek, which was connected to a computer. And he wrote thousands of pages and became acknowledged as the world's greatest astrophysicist in history. All these people had a vision of the future that kept them going. They had a mission they were on. They had something they believed they had to do, a reason they were here. And I don't aspire to nor believe I'm the equal of Beethoven or Helen Keller or Stephen Hawking in the pursuit of the heights of their specific fields of accomplishment. I do believe we're all equal in the eyes of God, in the potential, in the importance of why he put us here. This is my belief. You don't have to share it, but I believe you have a purpose for being here, and that purpose is in service of other people to show them what's possible in that area of life. And that's me. I decided at that critical moment, did I have the will to keep on living when things got really hard? I thought they'd been hard before that moment, but at that moment, it was the hardest it's ever been. And I realized, yes, God put me here for a reason. I've got things to do, and I'm not giving up on them. Not while I'm still alive, not while there's life still in me. If I'm still alive, if I'm still here, it means I still have a purpose for being here, something to do. So I stuck around, and I encourage you to do the same thing. And don't just hang around, but let's get busy living the life we really want to live. Because deep inside, I believe the Bible says that God gives us the desires of our heart. I believe that has a couple different ways of being interpreted. One of them is he gives us the desires that are true to his vision for who we are. In other words, that are in alignment with his word and his will. God says you are somebody with a mission. Do you accept? Even if it's a challenge? Do you say, challenge accepted? I do. If this resonates with you, if you feel like you're here for a reason and you want to fulfill that reason, you want to do the work that you're meant to do, that makes you come alive. You just don't know exactly how to go about it. And maybe you feel a little trapped. You're in a business already that's perhaps quite successful. I have a number of clients I work with who make over $5 million in revenue in their business, and they feel stuck. They feel trapped by that business. You know what it's like to be in a business that's outwardly super successful, and inwardly you feel like, I'm not fulfilling my mission in life. Maybe that's true. Maybe there's something we can do about that within that business, or maybe you do need to do something different entirely. If that describes you, you might want to go to workwithray.com and look at the application there and see if that seems like it's a good idea. If it is, fill it out. Someone will call you and we'll find out if it's a good fit or not. Meanwhile, at the website, we've got plenty of free stuff in the form of podcasts, recordings, videos, downloads, resources that'll help you take that next step in your journey. That might be in a new business you're thinking of starting, or you started recently, or it might be a business you've been running for quite some time. You want to make some changes around how that works for you. Let me know what you think or questions you may have by commenting below wherever you're listening to or watching this content. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I pray that God blesses you with more than you can possibly ask or even imagine, and it's all good stuff. I love you, God bless you, and I'll see you again real soon.
Thank you for listening to The Ray Edwards Show.
Find the complete archives of all episodes at rayedwardspodcast.com or subscribe for free through Apple Podcasts and never miss an episode.
This program copyright Ray Edwards International, Incorporated. All rights reserved.
Each week, we bring you a message of prosperity with purpose and freedom, remembering that true freedom is available to all through Jesus Christ.